Light illuminates the shadow, but shadow also gives shape to the light. Tsukuyomi no Mikoto, God of the Moon. Chapter 3, Trials Beneath the Moon. It began with a quiet that felt wrong. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of something waiting. The great torches outside the Kazakuten burned low. Patrols moved faster. Courtiers spoke in hushed tones about things glimpsed beyond the outer walls. Shadows with no masters, beasts with no names. Even the koi in the ponds stirred uneasily beneath the lily pads. Inside the Hall of Reflection, Empress Tsukihi stood alone beneath the sacred dome, where the constellations of the gods were etched into black marble. The twin doors opened without warning. Kuroda Kenshin entered, his long cloak brushing the floor like a whisper. His Nodachi Getsumiyokin hung silent at his waist. His steps were neither rushed nor delayed. He moved like a man who knew the weight of every breath. He bowed not deeply, but properly. Tsukihi turned to meet him, her expression unreadable. The reports from Tsukuyomiya, Tsukihi asked. Things stir in the forests. The priests say it is the beginning of a prophecy. The mages are worried. But I have walked the trails at midnight. I have seen the beasts, Kenshin answered. How many? Tsukihi asked softly. Just a few for now. They move like smoke. They do not belong to this world, Kenshin replied. We knew the world would shift again. Only fools believe the balance can hold forever, Tsukihi continued. Balance never holds. It only delays the fall, Kenshin said. Tsukihi stepped forward, the silver embroidery on her robe catching faint traces of moonlight and firelight at once. Kagetsu has grown, she said. It has been years since I last saw him. Has the light within him changed? Kenshin asked. It has deepened, but deep waters can still drown the unprepared, Tsukihi answered quietly. He needs more than lessons in ceremony. He needs the truth of the sword, the silence of the night, Tsukihi said. And you would have him learn it in Tsukuyomiya, Kenshin asked. Training in Tsukuyomiya will not be gentle, Kenshin warned. It was never meant to be, Tsukihi said. You will take him. Teach him the way of the sword and what a warrior must endure, Tsukihi commanded. Kenshin bowed again, lower this time, the kind of bow reserved for unspoken vows. When he rose, there was a slight edge of gravity in his stance. As you command, Empress, he said. He turned to leave, his footsteps fading into the high vaulted corridors. Above them, the stars pulsed faintly in their black marble sky, like distant watchers who had seen this moment long before either of them were born. The moon hung low outside the palace walls, silver and calm. Scene 2. The sky was still dark when the knock came. Kagetsu Hinaka was already awake. He sat in the inner garden, legs crossed on the polished stone, the Tsukuyomi no Hu resting quietly beside him. No sword, only the scabbard. But he kept it close, like it might whisper something if he stayed still long enough. Arimi approached with 2 cups of tea. You didn't sleep again, she said, handing him the cup. Kagetsu took it. I didn't feel like dreaming. My mother called Kenshin back. Do you know why? She asked. He sipped, not exactly, but I think it's about me. Arimi raised an eyebrow. Let me guess. You're about to be sent to train with him. He glanced at her. That's what it sounds like. The courtyard bell rang once. Kenshin stepped through the archway in full cloak and sword, his boots quiet on the stone. His eyes took in both of them calmly. Kagetsu stood, adjusting the belt that held the sheath at his side. Where are we going? Kagetsu asked. Tsukuyomiya, Kenshin replied. Arimi stood too. For how long? 2 or 3 days will be enough for him to learn, Kenshin said. Arimi started gathering a satchel from a nearby bench. So you are coming too? Kenshin asked. My duty is to be always besides him, she replied. As Kagetsu stood, he fastened the Tsukuyomi no Hu to his belt. Kenshin's eyes caught the movement. No sword? Kenshin asked. Kagetsu replied without hesitation. Not yet. Kenshin studied him for a beat, then nodded. It'll come when it's meant to. Kenshin turned, already walking. Bring your warm clothes, he said over his shoulder. The sun rises slow in Tsukuyomiya. Scene 3. The city beneath the silence. It was nearly dusk when the city appeared, layered in silver and stone, rising from the mountain fog like a vision. Tsukuyomiya, city of the moon god, was not loud in its splendor. It didn't shine with banners or song. Its beauty was shaped in discipline, every rooftop curved in perfect symmetry, every garden arranged with precision that felt almost divine. The city was silent, silent like a breath held too long. 1,000 lanterns flickered along the path into its heart. Pale blue flames that floated just above the ground, never touching it. Kagetsu stepped off the transport carriage beside Kenshin and Arimi, drawing his cloak tighter. The air here was colder, thinner. It smelled of pine and polished stone, of incense and something older beneath it all. Why does it feel like the city's watching us? Kagetsu asked. Kenshin looked at him. Because it is watching us. The road into Tsukuyomiya was smooth, carved from moonstone and volcanic rock. As they walked, soldiers passed in pairs, expressionless, carrying their blades like extensions of their own breath. Not one of them spoke. Children bowed without being asked. Even the birds circled in silence. Arimi, it's beautiful. Kenshin, it's strict. Kagetsu, it's cold. Kenshin glanced at him. You'll get used to it, or you won't. They passed beneath an arch of black stone carved with celestial script. Kagetsu traced the letters with his eyes. He recognized the language, but not the phrasing. What does that say? Kagetsu asked. Arimi looked at him and said, Let the moon reveal what pride conceals. At the city's heart, a structure stood taller and darker than the others. Its sloping roof like folded wings, the gates carved from moonstone into shapes of a sword, a flame, and a closed eye. This was the Kurashinden, the sacred citadel where warriors prayed before they bled. Inside, no incense burned, only steel and stone breathed. Tomorrow, Kagetsu would face it. Scene 4. Trial beneath the moon. The night after their arrival, Kagetsu stood before the inner grounds of the Kurashinden, the high training citadel of Tsukuyomiya. It was not sacred in silence, it was sacred in discipline. Soldiers moved across the black stone courts like clockwork. Sword drills, stances, rotations, measured, brutal, perfect. There were no prayers here, only commands. Above, the moon watched without judgment. 3 instructors waited at the far end of the arena. A katana master clad in gray-black armor, Takamine Ren, a lancer with a hawkish stare, Kuroda Riku, a mage in white-laced robes with talismans floating at his wrists, Alshima Kiji of the Silent Court. Each man carried the weight of 100 battles, and none looked impressed. Kenshin stood beside Kagetsu, arms folded. This isn't ceremony. This is how Tsukuyomiya judges readiness. Kagetsu said nothing. He stepped forward. Takamine Ren spoke first. His voice was crisp, military clear. Name and blood, he said. Kagetsu, Hanaka, son of Empress Tsukika Hanaka. Kuroda Riku spoke next. No sword, no armor, only a sheath. Kagetsu placed a hand on the Tsukuyomi no who. It's what I have. Oshima Kiji's talismans shimmered faintly. He nodded once. Then begin. Blade, balance, breath. Takamine Ren moved like water turned sharp. His katana flashed in wide arcs, not meant to kill, but to punish mistakes. Kagetsu barely dodged the first strike. The second clipped the edge of his sleeve. Kenshin's voice rang out. Watch the hips, not the blade. Kagetsu shifted focus, adjusting his steps, not blocking, not parrying, but reading. He stopped retreating and began to move through the attacks. When the final strike came, Kagetsu slipped past it and tapped Ren's wrist with 2 fingers. Takamine Ren lowered his sword, giving the faintest nod. Kuroda Riku stepped forward, planting his long lance in the center of the ring. He attacked low, hooking sweeps aimed at Kagetsu's footing, knees, shoulders. It wasn't just combat. It was designed to break form. Kagetsu stumbled early, catching himself hard on one hand. Dirt scraped across his palm. He didn't rise right away. He watched, then stood, slower, smarter. He timed the next sweep and stepped over it. Not with grace, but with control. When Riku thrust again, Kagetsu caught the shaft under his arm and held it for a heartbeat before letting go. Kuroda Riku gave a tight nod. Oshimakiji raised a single finger. A wave of mist swept into the arena. It wasn't just fog, it was memory. Faint whispers filled the air, doubts, fears, things Kagetsu didn't say out loud. He stood still, one breath in, one breath out. The voices pressed closer, too young, too soft, not ready, not chosen. He didn't silence them. He let them speak, then stepped through them. When the mist thinned, Kagetsu stood in its center. The Tsukuyomi Nohu at his side, his hand resting calmly on its surface. Oshimakiji gave the smallest of bows. The three instructors stepped back and bowed formally, not deeply. Takamine Ren said, "You see the blade." Kuroda Riku said, "You hold your ground." Oshimakiji said, "And you hear beyond fear." All three together said, "You are not complete, but you may continue." 2 days later, the carriage passed beneath the black arches of the Kasakuden. Kagetsu walked ahead of the others now. His stride was firm, every step deliberate. Arimi followed, adjusting her pace to match him without thinking. Tsukika waited in the moon-sun chamber when they returned. She said nothing at first, just watched him. When he bowed, she finally spoke. "Only a few days, and already you walk heavier." Kenshin looked down and said, "He's carrying more than before." Tsukika looked at him and said, "Good. Let's see how long he can bear it." That night, Kagetsu sat alone beneath a single lantern in his chamber. The sheath lay across his knees, cool to the touch. From behind the screen, Arima's voice drifted in. "Did you hear anything you were looking for?" Kagetsu looked at her and said, "No, but it felt like someone was listening." Outside, the wind shifted westward, and deep in the forests beyond the walls, something answered. Like and subscribe for the next chapter. We also do a concept video for each chapter. Until the next time.